While the island is on drought watch, a number of preventative measures have been put in place for water supply and monitoring weather patterns. The extreme dry weather conditions have hit the agricultural sector quite hard. Now, the Department of Agriculture has developed a plan in response to the drought-like conditions to assist farmers.
To ensure the levels of food security in these conditions are maintained, we're actually implementing a nursery for the taro shoots. So we're actually looking at two nurseries. We'll have one here at Waipapahi, which we'll look after, and another we're looking at implementing at the nursery sheds up at Mutalau, under the shade houses that were given as a response to the cyclone Heta from the FAO. So they're the disaster management greenhouses. So we're looking at utilizing them and propagating the huli and make sure that we still have stock left in consideration of the dry conditions that we're now experiencing. Contact the department and we can make the arrangements, and would have a little area marked out for their shoots. So each farmer they'd be allocated their own area to ensure it's not getting mixed up with someone else's shoots that they may have, or other varieties that they're looking at keeping. So yeah, would label everything and just to make sure that their area is allocated and maintained with watering and such.
Depending on how long this dry spell lasts, DAF will maintain the shoots until it is time to return and distribute.
If they've given us all their huli that they've given and what we've propagated from that huli will go directly back to that farmer. If they don't wish for it to be distributed out to the general public, we will not do that. It's just looking after their own stock to ensure that they can keep planting the taro. So we're not going to mix it up or just give it out to anyone and everyone. It just will be the allocation, and the new huli that will be propagated will go directly back to that farmer. At this stage we're just looking at the taro, but if need be and there's other crops that farmers will ask us to help look after them, we can look into that.
The decision to focus on taro shoots is due to the fact that other crops such as cassava, yam and kurma generally fare well in dry conditions, and farmers are encouraged to grow those crops. The service is on offer from the department as an option, but farmers could also work on propagating their own shoots nearby homes where there is access to water supplies. This will ensure the sustainability of local food crops during this dry period. Last Sunday, Lakepa Malay received their new reverend after a few years without one. The villagers of Hakupatua and Toi travelled with Reverend Saunalole Taleni and his wife Mokamana Taleni to their new parish. The Ecclesia Cristiano program to encourage and promote positive cooperation between pastor, parishioners and the village in praising the Lord has been held on Saturdays in previous years. But last Sunday, the event was a small change from the normal program. The new FCW also had their welcoming and encouraging message for Reverend Taleni's wife, Mrs. Mokamana Taleni, welcoming her into the fold of her new post. President of Ecclesia Cristiano Niue, Reverend Afa Pihingia, led the service before handing to Reverend Saunalole Taleni to conclude the service. And there will not be a Niuean event without the second part of speeches and lunch after the service. The village received more than $12,000 from the ecclesias around the island, as well as those that attended the event. Of course, the food event has always been a challenge for some, with a feast fit for the whole island. The few attendees were just as happy to rid of the food in as short time as it takes to say grace. We wish Reverend Saunalole and Mrs. Taleni the best in their new role. Niue police responded to a public disturbance last Saturday involving a male over 30 years. The individual is alleged to have had some history of mental health issues and was being held in Niue prison under supervision. The Niue Health Department says they are planning a supporting role to provide medical assistance where needed. Police says, admittedly, this is not the ideal place for a person, but the hospital does not have the facilities or capabilities to deal with such cases. Doctors yesterday carried out an assessment to identify what actions could be taken. Niue Rugby Union is about to launch another tournament this weekend with a hope of a repeat in 2 weeks' time. According to a representative from the union, Dalton Tangilangi, approximately 6 teams will compete in the Sevens Rugby tournament this weekend, but that will be confirmed by tomorrow. Rugby development on the island has been far and fewer in recent years, but the representative from the union said the development they're looking at to keep the game alive. However, as far as international tournaments are concerned, the lack of funding for international representation for Niue has also been a factor in their decision to exclude a team in the recent Oceania tournament to qualify for the first leg of the IRB tournament in Brisbane. Mr. Tangilangi said NRU is hoping to attend the South Pacific Mini Games next year to qualify for one of the IRB legs of the Sevens Rugby circuit. As for one of Niue Rugby Union's best results, Tony Pulu, who represented Niue in many tournaments, now playing alongside some of the All Black players in the county's Manukau team. And for the Niue Women's Rugby, Mr. Tangilangi said the team will not participate in this weekend's tournament, but will look at next weekend as well as the type of game they will allow to play. Last Saturday, an opportunity for some results in the new emerging Pacific Women's Leaders project to see firsthand what it takes to be in the private sector. A brief field visit was organized by the group to see a number of businesses on the island to provide some insight as to what is currently available on the island and gauge what other opportunities may be available for income-generating initiatives. Each site visit was facilitated by a guide who was able to give a brief background about the business operation, the history and vision, as well as drawing from personal experiences. Some of the key messages that came across highlighted that running a business is hard work, but very rewarding. A 24/7 job, but if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. But most of all operating business in Niue means that being multi-skilled or multi-talented will be a great bonus. Another concept was to under-promise and over-deliver was a catchy phrase taken on board by participants to consider when they develop their own business initiatives in future to maintain high standards. It was an enjoyable day out getting to see Niue from a different perspective and looking forward to further capacity building training throughout the project. To end our news bulletin for tonight, a fault to Radio Sunshine's power supply caused some disruptions to reception around the island. For the past day, Radio Sunshine was running on low power, which meant that the range where people could tune in was isolated and unlikely to be heard to most of the outer villages. The problem was identified by BCN technical staff, and according to BCN General Manager Trevor Siakia, the fault was located and there is a part that will be required to be brought in from overseas. It is unsure whether it will be possible to be brought on the next flight, but the corporation will do its best to get this part on the island as soon as possible. In the meantime, BCN technicians have managed to restore full power. That's our news for this evening. Good night.